We will now move on to our third session, Modern India and Somnath. I now invite session chair Dr. Gupta and speakers Dr. Neha Rawal, Parika Rathod, and Dr. Soumya Nagar to the stage. जय सोमनाथ। यहाँ पे बैठे सभी प्रबुद्ध जनों को प्रणाम करते हुए हमारा जो कार्य है उसको प्रेजेंट करने जा रही हूँ। I feel privileged to present the work of K.M. Munshi ji as being a part of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavans. Some temples are made up of a stone, but some are rebuilt from the soul of a nation. The story of Kanaiyalal Munshi ji and Somnath Temple is one such story of reclaiming civilizational voice. Next, please. So our study is based on some of the major points. The first one is based on the modern national milestone. The reconstruction marks a pivotal moment in modern Hindu history and post-independent India. The reconstruction of Somnath Temple after the multiple attacks invasion by the Islamic colonizers spanning centuries is a civilizational wound that India continued to carry until the temple was restored in 1951. And these attacks intended to rob Hindu of their sense of self, culture, dignity, and honor. In this context, the reconstruction of Somnath Temple in Prabhas Patan is a milestone in modern history and post-independent India. At the forefront of this massive monumental effort, along with Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and N.V. Gadgil, was Kanaiyalal Maniklal Munshi. He is often remembered for his educational and cultural vision for Bharat, his role in the Constituent Assembly, contribution to the public life, and a doyen of Gujarati literature. He was the driving force behind rebuilding Somnath Temple at a crucial time in India's political history. Along with him, some leaders and political figures who contributed to the rebuilding of Somnath Temple were V.P. Menon, M.K. Gandhi, Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, Samaldas Gandhi, and now Jam Saab of Navanagar. Somnath also nurtured imagination of Munshi ji as a writer and a thinker. The cry of Gujarati pride, Jai Somnath, inspired Munshi ji's writing and energized, guiding his literary work towards independence. Munshi's participation in reconstruction of Somnath was not without challenges. He was faced with the might of secular Indian state, which had decided to go out of his ways to protect minority rights. But Munshi stood tall, and as a public figure, as a writer, as an intellectual, and as a freedom fighter, and a man of action, to ensure that despite Nehru's displeasure, rebuilding of the temple continued. With reference to Kanaiyalal Munshi's civilizational vision, it offers a rich framework for contemporary moment of temple reclamation. If we consider Somnath in Munshi ji's writing, so a particularly significant dimensions of Munshi ji's writing is his contribution towards the efforts to embed Somnath within a broader framework of Indic consciousness. Through his writing, especially Somnath, the Eternal Shrine, he articulated a vision in which the temple symbolized not just a pilgrimage, but the very idea of Bharat's civilizational freedom. He argued that every attack on the Somnath represents the assault on that freedom, and that reconstruction of the temple signifies re-establishment of cultural dignity. This, at the core of Munshi Ji's contribution, was his insistence on grounding the reconstruction of temple based on vigorous historical and archaeological inquiry. With reference to that, his collaboration with B.K. Thapar was crucial in this regard. Through this work, Munshi Ji was able to reconstruct the layered history of Somnath and revealing that it was not just a single temple, but a succession of temples built, destroyed, and again rebuilt over the centuries. Munshi was also able to reconstruct the broader history of Gujarat and its socio-political transformations over the period of time. As a prolific writer, Munshi Ji contributed in English, Gujarati, and Hindi literature by writing historical novels, stories, dramas, and biographies. His celebrated work, Somnath, the Shrine Eternal, and Jai Somnath mirrors his aspiration for a cultural renaissance in independent India. While Somnath, the Eternal Shrine, provides historical and archaeological details about the significance of Somnath in Gujarat, Jai Somnath is a historical novel which narrates Gujarat's resistance against Muhammad Ghazni's attack on Somnath temple during 11th century. These are the monumental work by K.M. Munshi Ji. Jai Somnath is the historical novel written in Gujarati, and the book that provides archaeological details about the Somnath temple is Somnath, the Shrine Eternal. Yeah, next please. The story of Jai Somnath adopts the approach of new historicism, which this framework highlights the interplay between history and literature. This framework doesn't approach history just as an objective collection of facts, but it is based on the subjective narratives that are created by people around that event for that specific period of time. So in Jai Somnath, Munshi Ji has intrinsically curated the story around the political, spiritual, and social realities of 11th century. The absence of reference of Muhammad Ghazni's raid in Gujarat, erasures of historic resistance of regional kings under the leadership of King Bhimdev of Anhinwal Patan, and perceived inadequacies in the accounts provided by Islamic sources are among some of the reasons that inspired Munshi Ji to write this novel. Through the incidences and dialogues between the various characters in this novel, Munshi Ji seeks to capture the prevalent sentiment of people towards Somnath during Ghazni's attack. So Jai Somnath, the historical novel, opens with describing how Somnath occupied a significant place in the people of significant place in the consciousness of people as a guardian deity of Prabhas. So people from various parts of India across the different social class traveled through different routes towards Somnath with the single-minded objective, the darshan of Lord Somnath. And Munshi Ji has articulated this collective spiritual devotion in the following phrase. Somnath no Sivalay nohtu alay, nohtu શહેર અને નહોતો સ્વસ્થ પ્રદેશ. સદીઓની શ્રદ્ધાએ એને દેવભૂમિ સમૂહ સમૃદ્ધ અને મોક્ષદાયી બનાવી મૂક્યું હતું. Which can translate it to, the temple of Somnath was not merely a shrine. It was not a big city, or it was not even a very prosperous land. Centuries of devotion had transformed it into the divine land, prosperous and spiritually liberated. Jai Somnath. Yeah, next please. So, as some of the previous researcher has also mentioned, the story of Jai Somnath revolves around the presiding authority of Pasupata cult named Ganga Sarvagna, the temple dancer Chola, King Bhimdev of Anhilwar Patan, Rajput King Sajjan Chauhan, and Samant Chauhan. Munsiji vividly portrays how the life philosophy of each of these characters revolve around their faith in Lord Somnath. Chola, the temple dancer, is a reverent devotee of Somnath and regards her dance as an offering of prayer. So, in Munsiji's word, જીવન ભર નૃત્ય કરવું જય સોમનાથની ઘોષણા સાથે દેવના ગર્ભદ્વાર આગળ પ્રાણ છોડવો એનાથી વધારે સુંદર પરાકાષ્ઠા એની કલ્પનામાં ન હતી. To dance for the whole life and breathe her last while dancing for Lord Somnatha was her only desire. She could not imagine anything better than that. Munshi Ji has also narrated resilience by Rajput kings. When Bhimdev, the king of Anhilwar Patan, resolved to defend Somnath by assembling his force to Prapat, kings across the Gujarat joined him to protect the Supreme Lord Somnath, which Munshi Ji has mentioned as Bhagwan Somnath nu Sanrakshan દ્વારિકાથી વાંસવાડા અને દમણથી આબુ સુધી દરેકને માટે પરમ મનોરથ બની રહ્યું હતું. Protecting the shrine of Somnath was the only objective of kings from Dwarika to Vanswada and from Daman to Abu. So all the kings were got united under the leadership of Bhimdeva. Yes, next. Munshi Ji has also described the sacred resolve, the characters in the novel, those who resolve to protect the shrine until their last breath. Gang Sarvagna, the major priest of the temple, he said, એમાં શંકાને સ્થાન કે વિચારને સ્થાન નથી. દેવ અને મલેચ્છ વચ્ચે કોઈ માડીનો જાયો ઊભો ન રહીએ તો હું વૃદ્ધ ઊભો રહીશ, હું એકલો ઊભો રહીશ. જોઈએ છે શું થાય છે. પિનાક પાણીના પ્રાબલ્યને કોણ રોકી શક્યું છે? If there is nobody to stand between me and Lord Shiva, I alone will stand and I'll try to protect my deity. Even King Bhimdeva, who tries to defend Prabhasa, he said, what should we do then? Go Brahman Pratipad, આપણી ભૂમિને ખૂંદવા ઈચ્છે છે. આપણા ઈષ્ટદેવના સંરક્ષણ માટે પ્રાણ ન આપીએ તો શું કરી શકીએ? Which says, if the invader wants to plunder our land, should we not stop him? Should we not give our life to protect our land? Being a false Jyotirlinga out of 12 of Lord Shiva, the significance of Somnatha is not only limited to its building or physical structure. It represents the core history, culture, and civilization of our country. When someone suggested Munshi Ji that Somnath could be maintained as an ancient monument, he said that the temple lived in the sentiment of entire nation, and its reconstruction was a national pledge, national urge, a symbol of Hindu restoration. The temple's destruction, in Munshi Ji's view, was considered as a national disaster and has stayed deep in the consciousness of Hindus. Yeah, next please. To continue with the Munshi Ji's role in the reconstruction of Somnath temple, I would like to invite our co-author, Dr. Pinkuja.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And thanks to our chair, Gupta ma'am, for allowing both of us to present our paper. I'll be taking just 5 to 6 minutes to sum up and to focus on remaining part of the paper. So when we are talking about, we already have discussed about K.M. Munshi's role in general, how he was somehow contributing to the restoration, or maybe we could say the reclaiming the identity through national consciousness of India by focusing on the Somnath rebuilding and reclaiming the identity through Somnath temple. So what exactly it was doing, so we can see in 4 different parts. So it was not just a historical reconstruction. We did actually focus when we were talking about Munshi's work. We found that the archaeological engagement he was making with the help of B.K. Thapar, it was something very interesting to see, that it was not in terms of just something, as we already have been discussing, that it is not just a literary text or something, the literary source of history, rather than the archaeological engagements made it more fruitful. Similarly, the cultural articulation. So whenever we are talking about history, as my co-author already has said, the approach of K.M. Munshi was new historicism, where we are trying to understand history and literature together. So he was trying to see not just about historical reconstruction in terms of archaeological engagement, but also how to focus on the cultural articulation can be made possible. And yes, the very key aspect to the whole restoration project lies in this particular philosophical commitment to the dharma. So please, next slide. And there is a particular letter we find which is written by Munshi, letter to Nehru, where he says that I cannot value freedom if it deprives us of the Bhagavad Gita or uproots our millions from the faith with which they look upon our temples and thereby destroy the texture of our lives. So this is what we are trying to see here, that the idea of the component of dharma, which was very much integral to the overall project. So it is not something from the level of surface we are trying to see, but rather than the very basic element of Indic knowledge, what we today discuss is, it was very much relevant, and it was very much he was very vocal about it, and he was responding to the Nehru's like his disinterested attitude towards this whole project. So he was very much vocal about it, and he gives a reference of Gita and all how it is, makes me almost sure that this shrine, once restored to a place of importance in our life, will give to our people a purer conception of religion, that religion is not what we see today in the Western conception. It has something different. It is based on code of conduct, not just something that what we are saying, that Islam and even Christianity, and they do have a different conception of religion. So that difference, that basic difference, he clearly makes a difference here in this letter to the response to the Nehru. Yes, ma'am, please, next slide. And yes, we can see that grounding the reconstruction that we already have mentioned about it, and yes, the collaboration with B.K. Thapar in terms of that excavation work at the Somnath site, that enabled a systematic understanding of the temple's stratigraphy, architectural evolution, and material remains. So all those efforts have been done with the collaboration with B.K. Thapar. And yes, the study the nature of destruction of the temple site, establishing Somnath as a testament to civilizational endurance. So yeah, the major focus lies in this particular term, that is civilizational endurance. So we are not just talking about a regional temple or something which is located to the Gujarat or Saurashtra region, rather than as a whole Indic civilizational the identity, how it has to be revived. This has been somehow seen with this example of this project of Somnath. And yes, it somehow focused on the story of Somnath, which actually helped us to understand that it is not just talking about victimhood, rather than it is talking about resilience. So we are not just talking about what has been done to us, but how we survived and how we reclaimed our lost identity through it. So yes, it also focused on the again collaborative effort with other leaders that even we have been discussing since morning. So So just certain challenges we can see. The very first one was the secular Indian state. The term secular we have opted in our constitution, but what does it mean when we are talking religion state to be two different parts? But what religion actually means? So that has to be. It was very difficult to understand at that time. The leadership of that particular period, it was not making any attempt to understand that very minor essence of the difference, maybe we can say. And yes, the Nehru's allegation of Hindu revivalism, his disinterested nature, and simultaneously we have seen that partition, the political ideological hegemony of, again, connected to the second point. And these are some of the, we can say, the problems, challenges we have faced. And the very major, or we can say the very central challenge we can say here was the broader goal of Hindu civilizational revival. How we could have made it possible. So that was a very important, we can see, the problem we have been facing at that time. And even Munshi and other scholars of that period. Next slide, please. And now in the end of our paper, we can see certain lessons for the contemporary temple movement. If today we are talking about this reclaiming through temples, and we are taking the example of Somnath, the successful example of Somnath. So what are the specific lessons we can take to today? So these are like temple reconstruction has to be understood with education, cultural revival, and intellectual inquiry. We are not just talking about temple again in sense of Western conception, which is just a place of pilgrimage or something worshipping to our gods, but also it has the multifaceted example. We use the term mandir. It is something which help us to transform our inner consciousness. It has wider connotation. So that has to be understood today. And resilience of community, zeal of devotee, collective endeavors, these has to be come together, which has been seen in the example of Somnath, this initiative. So yeah, it has to be seen in a way like how political will and mass support come together to solve all those challenges that we have already discussed. And yes, no doubt the role of visionary leadership is very much important, and that vision cannot be just in sense of in the mind of leader, but the action has to be shown in some way. So these are a few lessons we can take for today's time. And the next, the last one is the references. We have focus as if now. So this is what we have worked as if now, and maybe later on we'll have discussion on some inputs from your side. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Namaskar, respected chairperson and present dignitaries. I am myself Parika Rathod. I am a junior research fellow at Department of History, Sardar Patel University, Anand, Gujarat. And my paper's title is Somnath Revival and Sardar Patel. Next. So my paper has three main parts, plus introduction and conclusion. For introduction, I would like to describe what my objectives are, which are to examine the reconstruction of Somnath temple in post-independent India by situating it within the broader framework of nation building and state integration under Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. A key objective of this study is to analyze Sardar's role in the integration of princely state, which is Junagadh, particularly because Somnath was a part of Junagadh state when India gained independence, and to show how this political achievement directly enabled the revival of Somnath. My three major focus points are the history, previous, which are the history of Somnath, in which I have described the construction, destruction and reconstructions of Somnath temple over and over again. Second one is Sardar Patel and Junagadh and its integration with Indian state. And third one is Somnath and Sardar, in which during and after the integration of Junagadh with India, Sardar's visit to Junagadh and Somnath, and last is conclusion. Next. This is picture one is the remains of Somnath temple in I think about 1948, and the second one is of Somnath Museum. This temple after the after उसको उतार लेने के बाद ये जो यहाँ पे म्यूजियम है, वहाँ पे सारे पिलर्स, इवन वहाँ से जो भी ऑर्नामेंट्स मिले हैं वो सब सोमनाथ म्यूजियम में अभी रखे हुए हैं. So I started the history of Somnath with its maybe the first known construction or restoration of existing smaller pillar by Moolraj Solanki in 997. Then the first foreign invasion was done by Mahmud of Ghazni in 1026. Then Bhimdev restored the temple. Meenal Devi, mother of Siddharth Jaisi, he was one of the ruler in Gujarat, made a significant donation here. Even Kumarpal rebuilt this temple. Vastupal and Tejpal made a pilgrimage here and constructed a palace. I have written 1300 when Alauddin Khalji launched the second invasion. Two people before me have written 1299, so I don't know which one is correct. I will go back to it. Then after the collapse of Khalji dynasty, Ra Naugand alongside Vinjal Dev of Gujarat reinstated the Somnath Linga here. Then Rah Mahipal oversaw the renovations of the temple. Third invasion was done by Muhammad Tughlaq, the Sultan of Tughlaq dynasty. After him, the descendants of Vinjal Dev, Meghraj and Jaisi undertook the repairs of Somnath temple. In 1369, Zafar Khan invaded the Somnath temple and once again plundered the temple. Meghraj's younger brother called Bham ascended to power and he had the fort restored here. In 1395, Muzaffar, the Suba of Gujarat, attacked Somnath and destroyed the temple. Brahmadas Vijay Rai from the Vaja clan ascended to power and attempted to restore the temple. In 1414, Ahmad Shah seized the throne of Gujarat and assaulted the remaining temple. In 1451, Rah Mandalik III renovated this temple again. In 1419, Mahmud Begda attacked here and demolished the temple. In 1511, after Muhammad Begda's death, the Brahmins at Somnath resumed their worship here. Even Portuguese also engaged in war here. So Portuguese General de Castro arrived in 1547 in Prabhas Port and launched attack and even demolished the mosques and temples here. Aurangzeb ordered to destroy temples in 1665 and one of the temple was Somnath. In 1783, Queen Ahalyabai Holkar of the Indore erected a new shrine of Somnath a little distance away from the original temple, which is still here. Peshwa government gave money to fix the original temple in 1800. The region was a part of Junagadh when India gained independence in 1947. Next. This is Sardar visiting Somnath. So after 1947 and when Junagadh had a Nawab who was Hindu, Mohabbat Khan, and most of the population was Hindu, but the Nawab was Muslim, and his minister Shah Nawaz Bhutto supported Jinnah and declared that Junagadh will be joining Pakistan. So Sardar Patel sent VP Menon to Junagadh on September 19 to talk about the merger, but it was in vain. So leaders from Kathiawar and Junagadh who wished to join India gathered in Mumbai, and at this convention they created a provisional government of Free Junagadh named Arzi Hukumat. After the military actions by Indian Army under the supervision of Sardar Patel and Arzi Hukumat volunteers, Bhutto issued a proposal to Indian government to seize the control of Junagadh, and after that Junagadh joined India in around 1948. Next. So this is Somnath Mandir Garbhagruh inauguration and Somnath Mandir today, as we can see. So Somnath and Sardar traveled to Junagadh on 13 November 1947. He was accompanied by N.V. Gadgil. In Junagadh, Sardar addressed an audience at Bahauddin College and paid a visit to Somnath temple. Menon have written about his visit, stating that he was deeply affected to see the temple, one symbol of India's grandeur, now in state of despair, neglected and sorrowful. Gadgil also have mentioned this, and he have written that Sardar announced from Ahalyabai Holkar Hall to the people that he and the people of India are going to rebuild the Somnath temple. Jam Sahib of Nawanagar was present there and pledged to donate 1 lakh rupees for this noble cause. Even Shamal Das Gandhi, the leader of Arzi Hukumat, announced contribution of 51,000 rupees. After Gandhi and Sardar agreed that government would not fund the temple's restoration, instead the community should raise the necessary funds to undertake the project. To facilitate this, a Somnath Trust was formed by the people, with Jam Sahib serving as the president. He laid the foundation stone of the temple on 8th May 1950. Sardar was to conduct the consecration ceremony of the temple, but he died before that. So the then President of India, Rajendra Prasad, on 11th May 1951, performed the consecration ceremony of the Somnath Jyotirlinga. K.M. Munshi also have written about instances of Sardar and Somnath. In his book, Munshi recounts an episode involving Sardar and Somnath on October 1947, when he was with Sardar at his Delhi residence and received a call from Neelam Buch. The call informed him that Bhutto had suggested the Indian government to take control of Junagadh. Upon hearing this, Sardar expressed his delight and remarked to Munshi, "It is Jai Somnath." Now, Munshi has written 2 books. One is India, Pilgrimage to India, and one is the Somnath, the Shrine Eternal. In both books, he has written this, yes, it is Jai Somnath. In one book, he says that Sardar has said it is Jai Somnath and Munshi was delighted. In other book, he says that he himself said that it is Jai Somnath and Sardar was delighted. So these both are contradictory and I don't know which one is true. Ma'am ने भी सुबह बताया था, तो it was just my remark. Then Sardar, Gadgil and Jam Sahib also visit the premises of the temple. Munshi notes that after the all the occasions of temple, Sardar took some water from the sea in his hands and said, "My ambition is fulfilled here." So that was all. This temple also embodies multiple identities, and thanks to Sardar Patel and his initiative that we still have this temple with us. And by initiating the temple's restoration immediately after gaining independence, Sardar conveyed that true independence was cannot be fulfilled without cultural dignity. Next. These are the references I have used, and previous pictures I haven't downloaded them from internet. It was shared with me by Somnath Temple Trust. I came here for my fieldwork, PhD fieldwork. So I went to visit the Somnath Museum and even Somnath Temple Trust, and they provided me with these photographs and some books. So that is all. Thank you.
Namaste and Hari Om. I, Dr. Soumya Nagar, co-authoring my research under Ankur Joshi ji from Vanasali Vidyapeeth, and I am here to present my research on the topic, which is Somnath, the eternal soul of India, from Adi Shankaracharya ji's philosophy to modern governance. ये जो research है, इसमें I am answering 2 major questions. One, which is कि जब ये चीज महमूद ऑफ गजनी ने ये 1026 CE में किया, विध्वंस मचाया, उसके बाद ऐसी कौन सी चीज थी कि हम लोगों में, भारतीयों में ये तितिक्षा थी कि हमने 900 साल इसका इंतजार किया कि वापस से ये मंदिर बनेगा. और दूसरा प्रश्न मैंने जो इसमें वो करा है, हाईलाइट करा है, विच इज कि जब ये विध्वंस हो चुका और ये सारी चीजें मतलब कैसी ये आइडियोलॉजीज को हमने फॉलो करा कि हमने इन सबको प्रिजर्व करके चला. द सेकेंड वन इज कि अब आने वाले हजारों साल के लिए हम ऐसा मंदिरों में क्या कर दें, या क्या, जैसे अभी मेरे से जस्ट पहले आनंद सर ने एक यही चीज कोट करी है कि हम ऐसा क्या करें मंदिरों के लिए कि वो प्रिजर्व रहें और ऐसा कुछ ना हो या कोई इलीगल स्टेप ना उठाया जाए. So for this, the very starting is, I would like to start with a view that Somnath Mandir is not merely a primary story of physical destruction, followed by the glorious reconstruction led by Munshi ji and Sardar Patel ji in 1951. But Somnath is much more than that. It begs a profound question that how is it possible to carry forward this legacy, to have this patience, to get it reconstructed after 900 long years? So the answer is because an invader can break the stones but cannot break the civilizational consciousness that we had for our mandir. That resilience was built in us by scriptures and the teachings we have got from the visionary leaders and the scholars and the acharyas we had. One of the major acharyas was Adi Shankaracharya ji. Next, please. I would like to quote a shlok for the same, which is Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lok Shankaram. Shankaracharya ji not only bring the physical structure together, but he also had this intellectual lineage of Guru Parampara first of all, and then it was the Alayam, the abode of knowledge that he had. The physical temple, the structure became the secondary thing because of the knowledge that we had to keep our mandir preserved for the same. Then when Ghazni attacked the physical walls, it was not the Somnath which has to be safeguarded by the broken lineage. It was completely untouched in the heart of people, allowing the leaders like Sardar Patel ji to manifest what was already within us. Next slide, please. As discussed, historians, these are some of the research papers which I have quoted, dated back from 1026 CE to 1951. There have been destruction, there have been reconstruction, but we can see the spiritual soul of the mandir which was unconquered. And it has also been quoted by Jawaharlal Nehru, which has been wrongly said that it was Hindu revivalism. So basically, the mandir is not just, it was not just a Hindu revivalism, to which a counter argument which was given by K.M. Munshi, that the mandir is not just a building, it is a living entity. And the rebuilding it is necessary. So which is why this thought of reviving or reconstructing the Somnath came from. The next slide. Now the question arises: how did we, the masses, protected from protected or processed from this trauma? Shankaracharya ji, I would like to quote his vision regarding, which is Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya. He clearly separated Mithya, the temporary changing physical structure, from the Satyam, which is the eternal soul of the Jyotirling which was present. When invaders broke the ideal, the Hindu mandir understood that only Mithya was damaged. The Satyam was indestructible. This psychology is what fueled our resilience. Next, the fifth. So the basic methodology which I have, the back one. The methodology which I have used in this paper is a sequential methodology in which I have taken into consideration the studies which were done by Adi Shankaracharya, his shlokas, his scriptures, and the post-independent governance in which I have taken into consideration. I have done a research on mandir governance, taking into consideration 104 mandir of Rajasthan state. In which there were cities like Jaipur, Udaipur, Pushkar, there was Jodhpur, and there was Kota. So I have done research on the same, taking out the governance model out of it. I mean, what is the basic model or the framework every mandir is following, and what is that we are lacking behind, which is why we are not able to, cope up. There are certain instances I'll be quoting further. So the objective of my study is to evaluate the resilience which was created by Adi Shankaracharya ji through his Advaitvad or Advaita philosophy. Then it is to investigate the decolonization. How was it possible that after after the post-independence, we were still stuck on the same cultural identity that we had? Then it is the governance model that I have taken from the Ban. This governance model I have taken the inspiration from the Ban's thumb. as we see that the path of the Ban Sthambh is inobstructable. Likewise, we should also take inspiration from this, having a governance system which is not disturbed or is not obstructed by the state interference or the government interference. Because going into the 104 Mandir, I have analyzed either it is the Devsthan Vibhag or it is the government, the state government interference, which is creating this chaos in management of the mandir. So this is the third one, the fourth point that I have taken into consideration. Next. This is the sequential analysis in which there is a the first one is the philosophical stage taken from the Advaitwad. Then the second one is a civilizational mapping. How did the teachings carried forward in reconstruction of the mandir through Advaitwad, which is the concept of Mithya and Satyam. And then the third one is the governance stage. What kind of steps do we have to take that things like this does not happen in many thousand years again. Next. For this, next one, please. This is the basic structure from Kumarpala. As we can see, there were construction from Kumarpala to Ahilyabai Holkar, preserving the worship to 1951. And then reconstruction, it wasn't just the construction, but applied Advaita in the philosophy of us, which is the concept of unity and manifesting it in a real world. The next, please. So this is the timeline that I have showed how the construction and deconstruction happened and how the applied Advaita was applied in every step that we have taken into. Next. As I told you, I have taken inspiration from the Ban Sthambh. Here, it is the example that Ban Sthambh, the arrow pillar, the inscription state the unobstructed landmass from this point to the South Pole. Scientifically brilliant, yes, but metaphorically it is a direction from governance stating unobstructable path from sacred institution with less political interference and bureaucratical roadblocks. We currently face a governance crisis despite of having a multi-billion-dollar economy. Revenue meant from dan, charity, palan, protection is often derived by government appointed bureaucrats, due to which the spiritual ecosystem is being compromised. For this, as we can see, there are certain issues we have seen. There is no lack of funds in the mandir system, in the mandir arthvyavastha. There is no lack of funds that we can not allocate in, but there is what we can lack behind. What we are lacking behind is in the management of the Devsthan Vibhag. Say, for example, I'll be quoting here. I went for a data collection, as I told you. So I have collected data from the pujaris. Also, I have collected data from the priests, the local community members, from the devotees that come visit the mandir daily. The major problem that I have felt is, first of all, the revenue given to the Devsthan, the revenue given by the Devsthan Vibhag to the pujaris is very less. To suffice family of 4, it cannot be possible. It is basically from 21,000 to 28,000, varied in various mandirs. And now there is a concept that pujari, we consider themselves pujaris as the one who is taking the bribe, or we consider them as not having a sattvic motive and rather having a commercialized motive. So this is what the problem is, because we have given everything in the hands of Devsthan Vibhag, the governance is lacking behind. Next slide, please. For this, I have derived a model which is the Dhan Sanchalan integrated governance model, in which I have taken 4 things into consideration. Next one. In which I have taken these things into consideration. The first one is leadership. As we notice that पहले नाथ संप्रदाय या फिर जो पुश्तैनी जिनके मंदिर चलते आ रहे थे, अभी उन लोगों से भी they have taken the authorities, they have taken the rights, and it has come under Devsthan Vibhag. तो जो एक भक्ति भाव वाला जो भाव principle था, which has been shifted to more of a commercialized principle now. तो वो भाव प्रिंसिपल ना छिन जाए, इसके लिए लीडरशिप आई फील गवर्नेंस कंट्रोल से वापस से आपको उस परंपरागत मंदिर को या उनको वापस से दी जानी चाहिए. द नेक्स्ट थिंग इज financial transparency. For this, there is a double lock system which I have introduced. I have written actually a book on Devalaya se Dharm Sanchalan, the book name is, in which I have quoted this. There must be a double lock system in which one lock should be kept with the Devsthan Vibhag and the other lock should be kept with the Pujari. इससे ट्रांसपेरेंसी रहेगी. ई डोनेशंस के थ्रू या विजिबिलिटी हम ट्रांसपेरेंसी रखे डोनेशंस में, क्योंकि अभी हो क्या रहा है मंदिर में जितने डोनेशंस, देयर इज नो लैक ऑफ डोनेशन इन एनी मंदिर. आई फील it is the bhav that they have been not applying it on the right place. Then the next one is the accountability. As I have mentioned, the Bhakt Sabha. कम्युनिटीज को भी उतना ही, वहाँ की लोकल कम्युनिटीज जिनमें वो भाव है मंदिर के प्रति, उनको भी उतना ही चांस मिलना चाहिए उस मंदिर में, उतना ही राइट होना चाहिए किसी डिसीजन मेकिंग को लेके. अगर ये कम्युनिटी बेस्ड सिस्टम बन जाएगा रादर देन हैविंग ऑल द कंट्रोल ओवर द स्टेट और द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, आई फील इट विल वर्क मच appropriately. For this, I'll quote an example. There is a खोले के हनुमान जी मंदिर in Jaipur, Rajasthan. लिम्का बुक ऑफ वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड्स में इसका नाम आया है सिर्फ इसीलिए क्योंकि वो कम्युनिटी बेस्ड उनकी जो गवर्नेंस रही है उसकी वजह से. What they have done is they have formed a group of 154 members in that particular area. जो उस कम्युनिटी के लोग हैं उन्होंने 154 लोगों का एक चेन, एक मेंबरशिप बनाई है जिसके अंदर दे डोनेट, दे हैव दिस यज्ञशाला ऑल्सो. वहाँ कर्मकांड भी सिखाया जाता है, वहाँ पे योग भी सिखाया जाता है, मतलब वो वॉलेंटरीली वो सर्विसेज दे रहे हैं. लिम्का बुक ऑफ वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड्स में आया क्योंकि जो चैरिटी वो दे रहे हैं उससे वो डेली आई गेस 1,20,000 लोगों को अन्नदान कर रहे हैं, directly or indirectly. So this is a great example of community based ownership if we do. And the next one is spiritual anatomy. अगम शास्त्र से strictly अगर हम derive करें teachings और उसी तरह से मंदिर का वापस से पालन पोषण करें तो मेरे ख्याल से ये ज्यादा ट्रांसपेरेंट एक follow up होगा. The next slide. Then it can be done on the 3 levels. First one is having a curriculum. जहाँ जैसे अब सोमनाथ का डिस्ट्रक्शन हमें क्यों एक सिंपोजियम के थ्रू समझाना पड़ रहा है, क्योंकि हमारे करिकुलम में नहीं था. तो जब करिकुलम में हम ऐसी चीजें इम्पोज कर देंगे, बच्चों को पढ़ाई जाएंगी, तो पहली चीज जो इम्पैक्ट होगा कि एनईपी में हम ऐसी चीज जो इम्प्लीमेंट तो की गई है लेकिन वो किसी तरह से करिकुलम में भी फ्रेम हो, बच्चों को पढ़ाई भी जाए. द सेकेंड थिंग इज द रीजनल वन स्कूल्स इस तरीके के खोले जाए या गुरुकुल व्यवस्था इस तरह से बढ़ा दी जाए. ऑल्दो देयर आर गुरुकुल सिस्टम बट इट शुड बी मोर इफेक्टिवली वर्किंग और मोर प्रोपोगेटेड. और मंदिर है वहां पे टीचिंग्स दी जाए या वहां पे गुरुकुलम खोले जाए, इस तरीके की चीज है. एंड द थर्ड वन इज द लोकल वन. एज आई हैव सेड, कम्युनिटी बेस्ड गाइडेंस होनी चाहिए या कम्युनिटी बेस्ड गवर्नेंस होनी चाहिए इसमें. नेक्स्ट, the conclusion of my study, I have derived it in 2 conclusions. The first one is reconstruction of Somnath was not possible because trust of people was sustained through विद्वान लाइक, मतलब ये पॉसिबल ही नहीं हो पाता, ये वापस रिकंस्ट्रक्ट ही नहीं हो पाता अगर विद्वान आदि शंकराचार्य जैसी एक फिलॉसफी, वो अद्वैतवाद की या फिर वो ब्रह्म सत्य जगन मिथ्या जैसे जो कॉन्सेप्ट्स हमारे समाज में आए हैं, अगर वो नहीं होते तो मुझे नहीं लगता कि भगवान पे हम पे उतना वो विश्वास रह पाता. The second thing is our duty is to build a robust ethical governance structure like Dharm Sanchalan model, which I have mentioned earlier, to protect the unconquered soul of these mandirs for next 1,000 years. Thank you.
So with this last presentation, we end the presentations in this session. I would like to open up for the questions and then would reserve my remarks for the end. Okay, looks a siesta time, post-lunch session. Doesn't matter. See, in Bharatiya tradition, we have a sanskar called Garbha Sanskar. And the temples have Garbhagriha. Is there anything which is common out of these? Because all Garbha, they are bound out of a seed. And when a child is born to a mother, we do everything anew. And when the second child is born, it's not the continuation of the first one. It's again a new birth. It's again a new sanskar. It's again a new existence. So whenever something of this entity which is spiritually purifying to the soul, like temples, they are destroyed and they are constructed, though there is a continuation of Garbha, but sanskar is always new. So it is called new construction. And when you construct it new, then of course the societal realities might have changed, the political realities might have changed, the circumstances might have changed, the financial positions might have changed. And in this changed realities, we are still continuing with our age-old belief. And that beauty and that truth, what better can be explained than by Somnath? Because when we reach out to Somnath, we are not constructing temples. Temple is the manifestation of our that urge to have its existence again and again. As far as the question came of temples doing their duties, whether it is in the form of pujaris or in the form of an entity or in the form of governments or in the form of NGOs and all, I think each temple is performing their duties. It all depends upon the expectations of the society, how far they need more. I know at least these two temples, Somnath and Dwarika, they cater to the surrounding villages. Whatever is gathered there, because I am a donor at Dwarika and I know there is one commodity which is not produced here in Gujarat, and that is sugar. Sugar is always, bought from the other states. So in Dwarika, there is a tradition of donating sugar. And with that sugar, 127 villages of the surrounding temple, they are given this sugar. So temples are performing their duties. It's a collective, even Somnath, I would correct a small thing that Adani Narendra Modi ji is not a member because he is a prime minister. He was already a member and he continues to be a member. So our fear that the next PM will also be a member is not true. It's not by the post. What we say is that is it the othering that is bothering us? Are we giving away this responsibility of protecting the duties of temples to others? Or are we becoming a part of that machine? I'm reminded of two sher. One is by Sahir Ludhianvi. So he says, हर एक दौर का मजहब नया खुदा लाया, करें तो हम भी मगर किस खुदा की बात करें. So there is a dilemma. There is a dilemma where we have disconnected ourselves and that each system is under a scanner. We are not satisfied with anything. Whatever is happening, we are super critique over it. But how far our roles are important to get mingled into it and corrected. And then the second is मेरी पहचान दरख्तों के बदन पर रखना, मैं बिखर जाऊं तो खुशबू का मुकद्दर लिखना. That is Somnath. How many times it has been ransacked, looted, taken away the wealth. But the truth is, each time the first brick falls, the process of construction starts from there. If not physically, then in minds. So Somnath is a very, very big symbol, bigger than what we can think about, bigger than the words can explain. And I compliment all the presenters. You have tried your best for your age, what you have understood. I'm sure this spirit will only not let Somnath down again ever. Thank you, organizers, for giving us this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to the chair and the speakers. We will now break for tea for 15 minutes.